This is such a great story for the new year because it kind of challenges you to kind of like think about how you can make a way for someone else. In every movie Robin Williams made, he asked the production team to hire 10 homeless people. I think that is amazing. As a superstar, even up until that point, I think that it's super important to reach out and provide opportunities. That will always be a part of my mission. Like when I get to a point where I can actually, I guess, do something for someone, I just want to follow this example. It says that Robin Williams, celebrated for his acting prowess, had also shown profound dedication to social causes and empathy, especially to those less fortunate. It is reported that in each of his films, he advocated for hiring 10 homeless individuals, offering them employment and a path towards stability. Throughout his career, Williams is credited with assisting approximately 1,520 homeless people. I mean, ugh, and you never heard a thing about it. He never talked about it. Well, at least, not that I'm like a Robin Williams, historian, but I'm sure had he said anything, we would have heard this story before. But I do think that's an incredible act. Also, I feel like it's important to reach out and uplift people that don't have necessarily the credentials but show interest. Now, I'm not sure how he vetted these people or determined who would do what. The part that sticks out to me is providing a path towards stability. And I respect that. Now, clearly, my take on this is more than likely a little biased because as someone that is, working on creating a channel, creating media, growing a page, content creating, a lot of times, like with brands and collabs, they want you to have X amount of followers or X amount of engagement or wanting to work with other creators when you don't have like an established brand. I feel like people are less likely to work with you. It's a lot of factors that play into when people have numbers, and all of it may not be based on talent. I would like to personally share a story. It's not related to like homelessness, but it does relate, kind of starting with nothing. I used to have a podcast that I ran with my cousin. I thought about, a lot of times we talked about, just creating and shout out to my cousin Serena. A lot of times we talked about just creating and, manifesting more so. We just kind of made the podcast conversations about, we talked about current events, celebrities, but we also talked about, what we wanted to accomplish as creators. And at one point I had an idea about, doing interviews because we talk all the time about creating this and creating that. But it would be cool to kind of like talk to people who are actually creating and, kind of like get kind of an inside scoop about the process, right? So then I'm not going to say the person's name because I don't know if he would want me to share it. I feel like he wouldn't mind, but I've never discussed that with him, so I'm not gonna say anything. Maybe eventually one day I will, once I have that conversation. But like I said, sometimes with brands, they want you to have X amount of followers. And I was reluctant. I thought about it a really long time before I acted on it, and I was reluctant to ask anyone about doing anything because I knew I didn't, fit the criteria according to what I had seen thus far. And then, I don't know, one day I was just like, okay, well, let me just see. And how I phrased the question to him, I was like, um, hi, so I would like to do an interview. And I would like to interview you, but I think I was like, hi, I would like to interview you. How many followers That's what I asked. I was like, how many followers do I need to like work with you? And I put my phone down. I didn't want to look at it, because one, I don't like to be told no. I don't like that at all. And even when people say no nicely, no one likes it, but it just really dampens my spirits. Especially when it's regarding something I feel so passionately about. But I was like, and then eventually, after some time had passed, I looked back at the phone, and he was like, I'm paraphrasing. He was like, "Let's do it," or something like that, and I was like, "Huh?" My mind was blown. And then after that, I was like, "Okay," and then I was like, "Okay, great," and then so I just put some questions together. I told my cousin, I was like, "He said yes," and she was like, "Oh, that's great." Process of like coordinating and scheduling the interview, which is this part really stood out to me. So we were trying to like coordinate times because he was West Coast, I'm East Coast. And I don't know why, for what reason it was so hard for me to like convert what was happening. Like I really struggled with that. But then I was like, okay, let's do this time. And he was like, okay. Nothing. Like anything I suggested, he was like with it. I was just really like shocked slash impressed by that. So what happened was at the time of the interview, my cousin had something that came up with her baby, and she was unable. She was like, "I'm so sorry. I won't be able to do it. X, Y, and Z happen." And I was like, "What?" And my heart just like dropped, and I was like, "Oh my God, I finally got like something set up." And I just can't. I can't. I don't want to tell him that I can't do it. And then um, so we kind of had uh like a pre-meet via Zoom. It was supposed to be the interview, and he got on there and he was like, "Isn't someone doing this with you?" He was like, "Isn't someone doing this with you?" Because I had told him like the setup of the show, and then I was like, "Yeah, but she had something come up, and she couldn't make it or whatever." And he was like, "Here's what we can do." Ooh, yo! He was like, "Here's what we can do." He was like, "I'm gonna make this a priority. I want to get this done. I said I would do it, so I want to make sure that we get it done. But if something came up, then let's just find another time that works for the both of you. And I want this to go the way you want it to go. I want you to have your questions like how you want them, and whatever." And I was just like, "Okay, thank you." Like, but I just couldn't believe, like, basically what I'm saying is I feel like he treated me with like the same respect and attitude towards me that he would have had with someone that was like established, and that made me feel good. And he kind of like set the bar for all experiences after that. Um, but I just really wasn't expecting that. And especially with me not, you know, really having a fan base, I would say. I was just, that meant a lot. By him doing that, it gave me the kind of like boost of confidence that I needed to go on and do other interviews, even, you know, so now solo. Like, I just think so for me, that kind of relates back to the Robin Williams thing. Like, when a person doesn't have, Like homeless, they don't have a home, but you can kind of equate that to anything. Anyone starting fresh out in something, any career that they want to do. Just like when people are, interns and they don't have the experience, but you go through a process and you kind of let the company or whatever know. And sometimes it's unpaid and you're doing it for the experience. In this situation with Robin Williams, he paid them, but even unpaid is magnificent because you get the best teacher is experience. And without someone opening that door for you, depending on the industry, it's hard to break through. And I just think that that's so important. And I love that he did that. And not just one person, 10, and I just wished more companies did that. Media, for me, it's media. Like, I would just love, sometimes my location prevents some of those opportunities, but now with the internet and like remote work, like, I just would love like that type of intern. And another thing is what's important about the story. Homeless people, just from what I've seen, homeless people are typically older, you know? And sometimes choices and options are cut out for them. Just the reality of society. And it's hard to kind of get a start when the odds are against you. And I don't dang, I didn't expect to get emotional about it. It's hard to kind of get a start when the odds are against you. When I think about like internships or sometimes apprenticeships, like a lot of times those are for college students who've just graduated, 20s, you know, they got like letters of recommendation. And when you're, I guess, like 25 plus and you find, you know, finally discover like who you are and what you want to be, and you look to kind of like enter that world, and sometimes the requirements, don't necessarily fit your lifestyle. Like, you like, for sometimes people, life hits them hard. Sometimes people have to deal with family and, health issues. Sometimes people have to deal with children. Sometimes people aren't dealing with children, by choice. Sometimes, you know, things happen unforeseen, and I feel like sometimes people give people a hard time for their situation and they say, oh, well, you had a choice or whatever, and you don't always know the person's story. Like, I'm very conscious, very aware of, life. And that's why when I see this story, it just means a lot.